Checklist.io.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And today we are going to be talking about it is better to be alone than in bad company. Some may agree, some may disagree, but we're going to get into why we think it's better to be alone than in bad company.
I agree.
Did you want to get us started?
So I would like to begin by saying that all my life I heard this in Spanish because obviously we're bilingual. My mom would say, prefiero estar sola que mal acompañada. Which is essentially the same thing. I'd rather, rather be alone than in bad company. Mm-hmm. And when I would hear that, I would think, is that so though? I would question it because I was much younger.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I've come to the realization that, it's absolutely better to be alone than in bad company because we've been in bad relationships or, friendships where you start to realize that the person's not giving you that substance or that energy or they're not providing what you are seeking. So I sometimes feel that it's better to be alone.
It is, but it's so hard to get there. We were talking off camera about how, both of us can share this, is that, going from one relationship to another relationship without sitting there talking about body counts or anything like that. Yeah. At the end of the day, I even went as far as saying, gosh, I remember my first little boyfriend from kindergarten and then the one from second grade and the one from third grade. Like it just was a thing,
Right.
Being a girl, you have your boyfriends. Being a woman, you have a husband, you get divorced. There's other men that step forward.
Of course.
And you're like, okay, this is just forward motion. This is just part of the process, right? But when do you get to the point where you realize, am I just afraid of being alone? And am I at the point where I'm just dating for the sake of having someone in my life instead of dating for standard?
Right. I know, and here's the thing that I believe. I think that when you do date and say, like you're saying, you went from in kindergarten, you go as back as, being a young kid. I do feel that there is a moment there that you need to take for yourself. And that moment has to be to kind of understand what it is that you want out of the next relationship and doing the self-healing. And instead of really thinking about the next partner, because a lot of the time I'll hear people say even, I don't know what the next person that I'm with is going to be like. And you're barely coming out of a relationship. And you haven't even done the work to heal. So how do you want to get into another relationship when you are still broken? You are still bleeding. You still haven't scarred. You have no scabs. You need to make sure that you do the work to heal in order to get to the next place to be great or in a good partnership with someone else and bring something to the table instead of taking.
Yes, because so much of it is exactly that. I know that when I walked away from a very long marriage, there were people that were stepping forward quickly.
Right.
And at first I was very flattered and I was going through the motions. I was like, okay, I'll go to dinner. Yeah. Okay, saying yes. But I did realize that I wasn't present because especially soon after divorce, you're thinking of all kinds of things, financial stuff. How are the kids doing? Like, should I even be away from my kids this much? Like, what are all the things? And people are like, oh, you got to put you first. This is your time. But what prices are to pay for that? Who's going to pay the price for that? Like, and so for me, I had a hard time making my sons pay that price.
Right.
And so for me, I had to sit there and go, okay, wait a minute. I have work to do because this is basically leaving me tangled up. No matter what, you were entangled with someone else for a few years and you have some detangling to do. And you got to figure out how much do you know that you like. Like, I didn't even know, what do I like to watch on TV, if anything?
Right.
Like, I didn't really know. Anyways, you go to the next relationship, you want to have all that cleared out so that you can contribute.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, no, and I think more than that, you have to find what it is that you like. And if that's, I've always said, if that means getting into some type of group or reading or, going to the gym or joining a fitness club or whatever it is, hiking, tennis, golf, you name it. There's so many things that you can do and you have to find yourself and you have to be okay with being by yourself. And there are times where I remember at the very beginning, because the first year is always very hard. And so you are going to have to, you have to figure out, what, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, even 4th of July, as silly as it sounds.
Yeah.
These are holidays that are kind of highlighted where you spend it with your loved ones. And sometimes I think we just want a body there. And I don't think it necessarily means that you love them or they love you. It's just that you're going from person to person without doing the work. And you're going to bleed on the next person because you're not ready and you're not healed. So that's why I always say I'd rather be alone than in bad company, because you're not providing the next person that is coming into your life with all of what you have to give, because you're only giving a quarter, because you're still dwelling on something that you haven't healed from.
You're still doing the detangling.
Exactly.
And you're still trying, if you just land on your feet, if you fall from a high place and you land on your feet, those feet are going to hurt for a cool minute. You're going to have some joint issues.
Yes.
Like there's just going to be impact on your heart, your body, your soul.
Exactly.
Your self-esteem gets rocked. There are so many things that get rocked. Sometimes friendships, because people feel like they have to choose between being in his camp, your camp and stuff like that. And that can create loneliness. There's a lot of things. And I think that the reason we wanted to do this episode is because we both experienced it in a different way. And we both addressed it kind of similarly. Again, filling the space with people. I know for me, it was like I leaned so far in on my boys and they were completely receptive to it. But even that's not the most healthiest thing, because you go, okay, you got to just be okay with like the fact that my sons, they had their own lives. They were older. So they would go off and be with their girlfriends and their friends, or go to Vegas or whatever. And then I had to be like, I'm just going to be here. And then what does that mean?
Yeah.
And did I feel the need to be like reaching out? Hey, you want to go have a drink? Hey, do you got my girlfriends? I had to learn not to do that. And I'm not saying it's bad to do that, but I wanted to get to a place where I could be in an empty house and it's okay.
Well, for me, it was a little different. I'm not going to lie to you. I think initially when I first, decided to go through my transition, I remember thinking that it's a transition. Not that I've changed my, not major transitions, but I went transition from being married to being divorced. I just remember that there was a moment there where I did want to go out, and I didn't want to go out with a guy per se. I wanted to go out with girlfriends. I wanted to go to concerts. Yes. I wanted to go to Vegas. I wanted to be out. I wanted to be social.
Yes.
I was not Girls Gone Wild by no means, but I definitely was just exploring that side that I never really got a chance to see, because I was married almost 10 years. In all of my 20s, I was married. So I didn't get an opportunity to know what that was like. And so there came a moment there where I did date back to back. And that's when I came to the realization that I didn't really heal from maybe my divorce and then the transition from the next relationship to the next relationship. And then I took about 2 years off. And there was a moment there where I also stopped drinking, because I thought, this is really making an impact on me and it's not for the positive. This is only becoming very negative and toxic for me. So then I had to kind of hit the reset button and do the work for myself to think, okay, what do I have to do in order to be okay with myself? Rather be alone than in bad company. Go to school, read a book, listen to audiobooks, kind of, connect with nature, and just say, I have to better myself, and I cannot expect another human being to provide that for me. I have to do this for myself. What does that look like?
I remember you were even learning a new language, and you were getting certified in some things, right? And so I remember that at the same exact time I was diving into my building a business and doing all that and taking off in that way. And so you're going to, when you reinvest in yourself, because that's what that is.
It really is.
Normally we put our energy into our partner, and we put so much of our energy into building that person up. And then when they're gone, we go, okay, who's the next person or people, meaning friends or this or that, and we're like putting the energy in that. But when you turn the tables and point towards yourself and redirect that energy back to yourself and go, you know what, maybe I do need to reinvent my look, maybe I do need to get that certification, elevate my knowledge, learn investing, whatever it may be. Like we're sharing in our cases, that is going to go such a long way that when you then look to see who you want to partner with, it's actually different. I know for me, who I thought I wanted to partner with right after my marriage changed after all of this investment I made into myself.
Oh, wow.
Now it's like I have a better understanding of who is a better match for me.
And I've heard this also, when you invest in yourself, you'll never lose. You never lose when you invest in yourself. That means inner growth. That means outer growth.
Anything
that makes you feel better, look better, and be a better person. When you really take the time to put the time, money, and effort in yourself, believe me, you won't have time for that extra person. And should that extra person come, great, then you'll be at a better place where you can actually bring a lot more to the table versus just being with these empty human beings that are they're not going to
they're lost in themselves
right. And a lot of the times, the problem is that we all carry a little bit of baggage and luggage, and it's understanding how to unpack the luggage, either you or your partner's luggage, and is it enough that you're willing to kind of come together and say, okay, how can we better ourselves? If the person's just there as a body, you don't need that. You need to better yourself.
That's like a bottomless well. And it's so funny that you say unpack, because I did a whole show for over a year before this called the Rachel Unpack podcast. It's still live. If you ever want to learn anything about, if you're a woman that really wants to understand where to start with that, head on over to that show, because I'm going to walk you through it, the unpacking. But that is so important, because at the end of the day, it will change who you attract. There is this karmic sort of energy taking place. And I was recently on another show talking about how life is just an echo chamber. And so you have to sit there and go, what do I want out of someone? And when you make that list of 10 things, that's actually your list of the things you need to work on yourself.
I agree.
And so you can say, oh, I want him to be fit, and I want him to be financially stable, and I want him to be close to God, and I want him to be a good father, and I want whatever it is. Now you got to turn that and put, I need to be and really look at that, because whatever you put out into the world, right, is what you're going to then attract. And so we are sitting there saying, don't go out into the world dehydrated. Those thirsty girls you see posing bikini pics on Instagram. Don't go out into the world dehydrated, right? Invest in yourself and be willing to be okay with yourself. If you can't even be comfortable in your own company, how do you expect someone else to be comfortable in your company?
Right. No, it's so true. It's what it is. And so at the end of the day, if you are by yourself, and it is the holidays, and it is 4th of July,
that's tough,
you know what? You just enjoy those fireworks and understand that the right person is going to come at the right time. And you will, as long as you do the work, and like Rachel just said, if you have 10 things and 10 items that you want to have in a partner, make sure that those things you can cross off your list as what you bring to the table. Don't expect someone to be, like you said, fit and, rich and this and that. And all of a sudden you lack all those things. So you have to pretty much mirror what you want. So as long as you're mirroring what you want, you're going to get what you want.
You are.
And so, but at the end of the day, understand that don't waste your time with people that aren't giving you the time and effort. You have to make that time for yourself to say, you know what, rather than waiting around for you to supposedly come through, you know what, I'm going to take a class on Friday. I want to learn how to bake or cook or dance, or, I want to go onto a spiritual hike, or I want to meditate, whatever it is. I mean, no matter where you're at in the world, there's always something that you can take for a weekend course, or maybe just a short 3-month course where you learn something. And anytime you invest in yourself, it's never a loss. Always remember that. So invest in whatever it is that you want for yourself.
Yep. I know that when I was married, I wasn't very religious, or I believed in God, of course, and I prayed, but I wasn't like dialed in, connected, like in the light, right? It was kind of like, there's a God, he loves me, he gets it, he made this, he understands the mess.
You're like, he knows my sins, holy.
He's got
You're
it.
like, oh my gosh, he sees everything I've done. You're like, I don't need to confess to anybody. He saw everything I did.
Yeah, we're good.
You're like, Lord, forgive me.
But then, I remember being on the couch, and I think I shared this with you, and it was like, there's this woman named Joyce Meyer, and she's this, female, not podcaster, but
public speaker.
Pastor. She's a pastor.
And a public speaker, right?
Yeah, and she came out and she was saying, pain is inevitable, suffering's optional. And I'm going to say this in a lot of episodes, because I want women to understand the power of that. because you might be listening to us going, yeah, right, but it sucks to be alone. All I do is cry because it gives you the time and space to actually process your pain. When it's, let me tell you, when it's his weekend, I know for sure every woman knows that feeling of like it's his weekend, especially the first year. Yeah. And you're sitting there like.
No, I remember. I will give you an example. I remember the first year. Christmas Eve is a lot bigger. It's more of a celebration than Christmas Day, and that varies for person to person. That's even if you celebrate Christmas. But point is, I remember for me, Christmas Eve was a big deal for my family, for everything, and usually I always hosted most of the holidays. And I just remember thinking that the first year he was going to have them for Christmas Eve, and there was the first year that I was going to be with them. And not that I say that you should do this, by the way, but I remember that I bought a Patron bottle and I just put it right next to me and was like, sorry, Tavi tequila, because we are drinking Tavi, but that was before Tavi. Yes. And I remember thinking, I just don't want to know. I wanted to numb myself out of the situation. And that is part of the healing process that you'll go through. And like I said, there was a moment there where I stopped drinking for like 2 years. I said, this is not beneficial for me. There's nothing good coming out of this for me. I'm not growing as a person. I'm not growing as a mother. I'm not being a productive person if I'm hung over the next day. So I said, it's not aligning with me. So I stopped. But my point is that at the end of the day, understand that the universe shifts you for a reason. So what is the worst thing that is happening to you in your lifetime at this moment, if you're crying or whatever you've ever been through that's really dark, believe me, the universe is just reshifting you. And when you look back and you do the growth, you'll say, that is the best darn thing that ever happened to me. And that's powerful. If you can sit there and say, this is the best damn thing that ever happened to me, I promise you that you'll look back and say, thank God. Yeah. Thank God this happened.
Thank God. This happened. It is like, and Delia, you could speak on this too because you're a fitness girl, but at the end of the day, when you are building muscle, I remember just learning a lot about this because my ex was kind of into bodybuilding and my sons were into it. And it's like this whole thing about like the growth of the muscle comes in the breaking of the tissue. Right. And so at the end of the day, it is the same thing. We have like spiritual muscle, we have emotional muscle, we have physical muscle, mental muscle. There's just so much muscle that we need to develop because it atrophies. You're married, you're used to having a partner, you're used to just the way things go. And then all of a sudden you have to land on your feet. Yep. And from that moving train that we say, and you have to develop faith. You have to develop, because like I said, I didn't really just come with it. I had to develop it after I saw that woman, Joyce Meyer, say, that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I had to figure out, okay, what does that mean? And am I causing myself to just suffer for no reason? But being alone and learning how to just sit in your feelings and process is part of the pain, of course, that causes that breaking. But then guess what? You do that a few times
and you're fine.
And you
it's easier said than done, right? But I always do say this, and this has helped me through my darkest days. And it may sound a little redundant because you guys might hear me say it once in a while, but I feel that past tense is nonsense. And what I say when I say that is what we live in the past a lot of the time. So we like to live in a moment in time that has already passed us, and we want to understand why we're going through certain things in our life, and we say, why am I going through this currently? But understand that whatever has passed you can't go back to that moment in time. The only thing that we should do is go back to a moment in time in order for us to see how we can grow from that. Yes. And understand that the only thing that we have the ability to change is this moment. And then always look at 3 positive things that are happening or that you want to create for yourself in the future, because the future is never promised, but this moment is. Yeah. So you have the opportunity to say, you know what, I have the wit, I have the right to just grow from this moment and say, I can't go back there. Yeah. I got to take this moment and be the best of me today to be the best of me tomorrow. So what do I have to do to make myself better? And you have to think of 3 things to say, okay, I want to, whether that's buying another house, another car, if you have a body goal, okay, really put that down and really see that forthcoming. Really look at what's coming for you instead of living in the past and crying and thinking, Why me? So it all kind of correlates with the rather be alone than in bad company. So do the work for yourself and grow. Do that inner growth instead of really thinking about who the next person's going to be in your life. I mean, you know, if you're broken, you're just going to bleed on the next person, or you're just going to,
the expectations you're going to have of what they need to do for you is going to be so far ridiculous, out of pocket. Like you're just going to destroy another relationship.
And it's not going to, even if he's a perfect man, if you find the perfect man, if you're not the perfect woman, or you're not in a perfect place, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
But if you find someone that kind of matches all your criteria, but you're broken, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually capture that person anyway. So you have to really think about, is it worth me just being with all these different guys in order to supposedly feel like I'm worthy? You are worthy.
Yeah.
You are worthy. You have to always remember that. You're worthy no matter what part of your life you're in. And no matter what deep, dark hole you're in, believe me, look for it. You're going to be able to climb out of that deep, dark hole. You're worth it.
You are worth it. If you do the work, you'll never, ever regret it. You'll never regret it. When you sit at that dinner and you're on your date, your first date, your second date, when you've done the work and you've cleaned your house internally, so to speak, your emotional house, you will then have the time and space and the clarity to be able to look at that person and go, yeah, you know, we're not really a match. And you're going to be able to notice people who haven't done the work. I think that's probably been the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
Is I went so far in on doing the work. I did a full audit, not just of like what my husband did to destroy the marriage, because let me tell you, the list was long and broad and all the things. But then there's always we all contribute. And so I looked at myself and said, okay, what are the things I could have done better? Whether it was respond better to his BS, whether it was, you know, whatever it was. I did a full audit. I was very honest with myself. And I spent the first 6 months after my divorce doing that audit and doing my best to just replay certain things. So again, it's painful because you're going back in the past, but it's not meant for you to like stay there. You know, you got to go through things and grow through them. If you just go through them and you don't grow, meaning do the audit, look at what you contributed, take ownership of that behavior and that mindset or that insecurity, and start going to work. That's the list of things that you need to go to work on.
Right.
So it could be, well, you know, he always, you know, made me feel bad about my body.
Right.
Do you need to go to the gym? If you went to the gym and you worked out, would you then go, I look good, this guy's freaking just crazy? Like, you know, there's certain things that come to pass. If he says, well, you never contribute to the household. Like, I treated you like this because all you did was sit around all day and I had to pay all the bills. Like, so if you go, okay, I never want to feel that way again, does that mean maybe I should go find a side hustle or some way to make money? You know, just go down the list.
Well, or even maybe there was something, we're all good at something, and maybe taking another course, or maybe really, you know, trying to collaborate with someone that knows what you want to do what they're doing, and kind of, you know, shadow them in a way. And a lot of people are pretty open in allowing you that, to help you out. And so always remember that as long as you're doing the work on yourself, I promise you, it's never going to be for nothing. Yeah. And always understanding that, you know, the past is gone and it's past you. Yeah. So you got to do the work today for tomorrow. And, you know, nothing's ever promised anyway, as we know. At least that's what I like to think, right? I don't know if there's like another world or another life, because everyone's like, nothing's promised. And you're like, but is it really? Like, I mean, you know what I mean?
Isn't the hard thing now is that, like, we do people live in the past and they get stuck there. They don't grow or go through it. And then they also live in the future. And I had to work on that because I was always looking so far ahead. And so to me, I'm like, no, you have to look at the present. Would you
feel anxiety living in the future? Because I could see that how that could give you anxiety to think, okay, so, you know, because I know I've heard people even say like, well, who am I going to marry, and am I going to have more kids? And I'm just like,
tune all that out. You
need to like figure this whole situation out, and then you worry about who the next person will be. Yes. And if it's in your if it's aligned with your universe and your cards, no matter if you get in front of it or you move to the side, if it's meant for you, it is going to be for you. Yeah. And there is no voodoo abracadabra stuff that you gotta do. There is no specific prayer. There is no specific man prayer that you can do. If it's meant for you, it's gonna be for you. And if it's not, then it's not.
When you are sitting there by yourself, and you give yourself the opportunity to be alone. If you say 1 hour a week is for me, I recommend 1 hour a day for yourself in meditation or just prayer or whatever it may be. But if you go once a week, I'm going to go to the beach or wherever you're at, mountains or whatever, and I'm just going to be in nature, whatever it is, that is your time to really understand yourself and quiet everything down so that you can really figure out, what do you want? There's what do you need and what do you want, and really figuring those things out. Because when you get all that clear in the silence of the house, when your kids it's his weekend, your friends are busy with their husbands, and it's just you. That is a good place to be. That is like God is sitting you down going, sit right here. But if you're going, no, I got to get ready and go out and go dancing, you're not making room for it. And I'm not saying don't go out and have fun, but you got to budget some time to just be alone in your thoughts, in your feelings, so that you could process, clear that out, do the work, and then take the next steps.
Yeah, that's what I agree with you 100%. I think that sometimes you just got to be okay with being by yourself. Yeah. And if I've never done this though. Taking a trip by yourself, I've heard that's very I heard that's very healing. I've never done it, and I'm not against it. I just haven't had the opportunity. Plus COVID hit, so we're gonna blame everything on COVID.
Let's blame it all on COVID. I follow the founder of Spanx, and I can't think of her name right now for some reason. Yeah, but she founded Spanx. Everybody knows what Spanx are, and she's married and has kids. She took a solo vacation, and she said she shocked herself. Oh my gosh! Because like the second or third day in, she just cried in bed. Aww. She went through so many emotions that she didn't even realize she had in her, and it made me go, this is going to become a thing. This is going to become a thing. Because just spending the day by yourself close to nature, I guarantee you're probably gonna just learn so much about yourself. Imagine a whole 7 days. Oh man.
Well, I think there's probably so many emotions, like, I'm glad I'm here by myself. And then you're like, I am. And then you're like room service, and you're like, just bring me all the cookies and like chocolate cake. and then you sit there, you eat everything. You're like, whoa! You start crying. You're like, I can only imagine like the roller coaster of emotions that you would go or you would have. Like, I just, you're good with yourself, then you're not, then you are, then you're good, and then you're not. So at the end of the day, it really boils down to doing the work, the internal work, and understanding that this is the best time of your life, quite possibly, because you don't know what's ahead.
Even though the youngest you'll ever be, right?
And you know what? We can't stop time. So at the end of the day, you only have the capability for this moment, or you can only capture this moment. Is what I should say. And so you know what? Really take advantage of that. Really do the work. And really appreciate what God is giving you as a blessing. And this moment is the only thing you have control over. And always think of 3 amazing positive things that you can do to better yourself. And be okay with being by yourself. And do the work. And don't bleed on the next person. Don't do it. And I think that's pretty much all we have, right?
We have. So thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned to the very end. We have a wonderful mantra. Oh, we have Bella here chiming in again. A beautiful mantra that you can go ahead and screenshot if you're watching on YouTube. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, you can take a look at the show notes and see it there. But all we are telling you is that you deserve fresh lettuce. Cheers.